Yo, what's up guys? It's the Bearded Muck, and did you guys grow up as an only child? Especially in the 90s? Well, I did. Hey, check out this podcast. This is my first podcast episode ever. Growing up in the 90s as an only child. Hope you guys enjoy it. If you guys are listening on the audio side, thank you so much. Subscribe. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, hey, hit that like button and subscribe, and please go ahead and comment. I hope you guys enjoy this podcast. All right, guys, without further ado, check it out.
Hey, what's going on, guys? This is the Bearded Muck, and I am so excited to have you guys here. I'm so excited to be here. This is my first ever podcast. Welcome. I am the Bearded Muck. Thank you for joining. If this is on the audio side, welcome. If you're listening to this via audio, I've learned how to post it up on audio, so thank you for listening. If you are not, this will be on YouTube. You can type in the Bearded Muck, and my podcast will show up. I do some funny movie reviews, TV series reviews. Whenever I feel like whatever interests me. So you guys can catch that and check it out, like it, whatnot. But if you're new to this, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, the Bearded Muck. And if you're on podcast, audio wise, well, welcome. The descriptions and everything will be in this video link, and yeah, you can go from there. So yeah, guys, once again, I am the Bearded Muck. This is my first podcast ever. I'm pretty excited. I got some interesting topic to talk about today. Our topic is going to be the life of an only child in the 90s. Yeah, life of an only child in the 90s. I am an only child. Hello. I still am an only child. I'm 37 years old. My parents only had one kid, and that is me, the Bearded Muck. So yeah, guys, I mean, the life of the 90s was pretty awesome. I mean, I had a great childhood. I had great parents, a mother and father. They did their best in raising me. They both worked hard. They gave me a pretty great childhood. I can't complain. It was pretty awesome. I thought the 90s were amazing. I mean, this is all I know. I know people from the 60s and 70s are probably like, yeah, man, the 60s were awesome. The 70s were great. But the 90s to early 2000s, mid 2000s to now, it's been phenomenal. I cannot complain. I love my upbringing. I tend to go in the past a lot. That's just who I am. I just live in the past. I don't know why. Within memories and stuff. Maybe it's just an only child kind of thing, but maybe it's just me. But yeah, that's just how I am. But so let's get into it. Like I said, I'm 37 years old. I'm an only child, and I grew up in the 90s. This podcast today is going to be like a little biography of who I am without going into too much detail and boring you, and just kind of explaining the life of an only child, me, and could be you if you're watching, growing up in the 90s. So yeah, one of the best things about the 90s that I don't think we can ever get back was the food. The food was phenomenal. I mean, we had all the best candies. We had McDonald's. I mean, McDonald's just hit differently way back when. The cheeseburgers, the Happy Meals, the fries. I mean, the Coke was just epic. I mean, we had actual toys. Like metal plastic toys. Not this shit they're giving nowadays. My daughter gets McDonald's and it's just, the toys are garbage. I'm like, oh my God, I'm sorry. The candy was just phenomenal. Our candy rocked. We had Abba Zaba, we had Push Pops. I think I said that right. Ring Pops. I mean, the gummy bears. I mean, everything was just supreme of the 90s when it came to candies, I remember our drinks were like Squeeze-Its and Mondos. You guys remember those? Those were fucking amazing. I loved them. We didn't have Starbucks or coffee. I don't think I ever drank coffee growing up. I remember my grandma and grandpa always making it when I was a kid, smelling it, like the Folgers commercial. Nothing comes close to the best. I know I said that completely wrong, but anyway, you get the idea. So yeah, food wise, I mean, it just rocked. Pizza Hut was like the spot to go to for pizza. I think there was Little Caesars and Domino's, yeah, but I think Pizza Hut was like the place to go for food. And then I think there was a pizza place that my parents used to go to and all my family sometimes. Shakey's, yeah, the fucking Mojos were bomb. I remember going there a lot, kind of vaguely growing up. But yeah, I mean, 90s food, solid, solid. Um, so a little bit about me. I grew up with my mother's grandparents. I mean, my mother's grandparents. My grandparents, my mother's parents, her father and mother. We lived in their house, and I think as an only child, that kind of gave me like a general respect for my elders growing up, because my grandparents were a lot older than normally, at my age. So I kind of felt like I had like a good bond and connection, with people in that category. So that was a really awesome thing as an only child. Not a lot of people can grow up and say that they were that close to their grandparents, or sometimes they don't even have grandparents. So that was pretty cool. I grew up in a pretty awesome childhood. I had a pretty big family on my father's side. Still do. My mom's side, it was just her brother and my one cousin. But on my dad's side, man, you would think as an only child I'd be fucking bored. No, that was the complete opposite. It was insane. To make a long story short, probably the best memories of growing up was I had I had many cousins, but I had one cousin that I could probably consider a sister growing up. We were inseparable together. All my cousins predominantly were female. I had a couple older male cousins, but they were older than me. We didn't really hang out much. And now, I have a few younger ones, but they're all doing their thing. So yeah, me and this one cousin, which was her father and my dad were brothers. They used to come over on the weekends and we'd always hang out, and they would come to the house. I lived upstairs, and my grandparents lived downstairs. So they'd come over and they would like party and shit, drink. My dad and his brother would blaze it, smoke weed, have a good time. It was fun. It was great growing up. Me and my cousin would be like playing, eating like slobs, eating pizza and candy, just running around like fucking crazy. I had a dog. Her name was Lucky. She'd be going all crazy. David Bowie would be playing Led Zeppelin, all sorts of 80s and 90s music. And as dark as it got, like in the music, you knew that they were pretty fucked up, especially my dad. He would start singing and get all annoying, and yeah, it was just crazy. But one of the greatest memories I remember probably was my cousins, my two other female cousins. We would always go to their house for family parties. That was like the biggest thing. We'd go over to their house. Her dad and her mom would throw like the big family get together parties, and it was great. We'd have birthday parties there. Everyone would be drinking, eating. There'd always be some kind of like conflict or argument or something. Not always, but that was like our fucking family. If there wasn't any drama, it wasn't going down. It wasn't happening. That's kind of funny. I have a pet peeve. My parents, God bless their souls, are notorious. We're notorious back then of being late to almost everything when it involved the family, and I fucking hated it. I remember like the party, let's say the party started at 12. We were barely leaving at 45 after, my parents are just bickering at each other, which is, the norm. And my dad spraying like fucking 20 gallons of cologne on in the back seat, and I'm like choking to death. And, it's funny because I hated coming to the family parties or anything in general now late. I just hate being late. And it's funny because my daughter, she'll like, yell at mommy, oh, I don't want to be late. I don't want to be late for school and this and that. And obviously she gets it from me because I hate being late. But yeah, going back, it was always like the biggest thing at the family parties for the cousins growing up where we had to meet at the chip bowl. That was the place. If you know, you know. If you didn't have a chip bowl, I'm sorry. But, Doritos, Fritos, Cheetos, it was the spot to be at in the 90s when you were like 11 or 12, and younger. I hated going there, and, we would pull up and like all the cousins are accustomed. They're all talking, having a good time. And here I am, walking in and shit all awkward. And hey guys, I just hated it. I hate being late. I'm pretty sure anyone else can relate. Maybe it's just an only child thing. Maybe it's just a weird kid thing, but I always hated being late. So yeah. The family parties were probably the best, I moved out of my grandparents' house for probably 2.5 years at one point. My mom and dad rented a house kind of near where the family was. And I remember we would have like birthday parties there, and it would go down too. We had the pool, and everyone would drink, and the grandparents would come over. Excuse me. It was just fun. I mean, the 90s. I mean, I look at the home video now, like the smells, the laughs. It was just great. It was great. And being as an only child, having my cousins and everyone around, it did help a lot. But I did quite enjoy being alone too. I think it's an only child thing. I mean, it didn't bother me. I liked my alone time, and we'll get more into that too. But yeah. So like the family parties were the greatest. I loved it. The one thing about the 90s I remember too as an only child is waking up to cartoons in the morning. I mean, cereal hit differently. Cocoa Puffs, Captain Crunch. I mean, it was fucking phenomenal. I mean, we had the best of the best. Waking up to Bobby's World, previously on X-Men. Me and my dad used to watch X-Men, and it was great. One Saturday morning, I remember me and my cousin, the one that I was close to, like a sister, growing up. Our moms worked at the same company together, and I remember I think they would have to go in on a Saturday if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and like I remember it was like tradition, like we would get McDonald's, and meet up like little fat asses and shit, and we would go and sit in like this little lounge area, and we'd watch One Saturday Morning. Pepper Ann. It's probably all I can remember, but I mean, all the little cartoons and everything it was a great moment. It was just a great memory, and I don't think anything can take that away, like how the 90s were. Yeah. Cartoons in general were just great. Do you guys remember, I remember watching Full House, Family Matters, TGIF Friday. That was the shit. I mean, these kids these days, they don't have that. Those were memories. You'd have to wait for it, look on the TV guide, and look for this. And that was awesome. Speaking about TV shows, I remember one TV show, and my wife always gives me shit for it. I guess we're just different, but she said she absolutely hated this show. I hated one of her shows, and I still to this day don't know why people liked it. It was just terrible. It was stupid. It was cheesy. It was cringy. Saved by the Bell. Garbage. I'm probably going to lose subscribers for this, and that's fine. No, I'm just kidding, but Saved by the Bell was just garbage. It just didn't interest me. Now, my favorite show growing up, I remember, well, you know what? Hold that thought. Now, no, I'll tell you. It was Boy Meets World. Who did not like Boy Meets World? My wife hated it. I don't know why. I mean, I loved it. Mr. Feeney, Eric. It was just great. Topanga, what boy didn't have a crush on Topanga? I mean, she was gorgeous. She's still pretty hot to this day. But anyway, I remember, watching those shows, and it was just great as an only child. As an only child, I remember this weird thing I would do, and maybe it's just an only child thing, but I would have to clean my room. Now, between the ages of 12 and 13, my room was like a psychopath fucking murderer's room. I used to have to make the bed military style, everything be completely neat. It was weird. I used to have everything like organized and properly put down, and just it had to be like precise. It was like Dexter style. That's how bad I was. I don't know if it's an only child thing, but maybe I'm OCD. I mean, I did have ADHD. Maybe it's that, but I had to do that. And when that was all accomplished, then I would get my bowl of hot Cheetos like a fat ass, lay on my bed like a beached whale, and I would watch Boy Meets World, or I would watch Bug Juice. You guys remember Bug Juice? Bug Juice doesn't come in a jar. Well, anyway, that was great. I loved that show. But yeah, that's kind of something that I would have to do as an only child, and I I don't know that maybe it's just me personally, but I mean, maybe you guys can relate. Let me know. Let me know down in the comments if that was something you guys did. But I was an awkward kid, you know. I was just an awkward kid. Um, I remember like, going into like the late 90s, like middle school going into high school, dating now in comparison to kids, when we did compared to now, kids have it fucking made, you know? But I like to think that we had this sense of like communication. We would communicate with actual people. Like if we had a crush on someone, we would pass notes. We didn't have fucking cell phones. Our way of communication was either skateboarding, riding our bikes, walking, passing notes, telling such and such, like, oh, I like her, or he likes me, or whatever. That was our way of communication. And kids now have it easy. I don't understand. Like, I mean, for the adults that have to date now at late 30s, God bless your soul. I mean, you go on an app, you put your profile picture in bio, and you swipe left and swipe right. And I've heard about some people getting married off early Facebook back in the day, or MySpace, and that's weird. I was thankfully blessed to know my wife throughout actually kindergarten and middle school, but we didn't talk much, not until high school. We're high school sweethearts. We've been together for 22 years. She's probably going to kill me, but married for almost 12 years. If I'm wrong, please don't leave me. I'm sorry in advance. So, I could not imagine where to begin to date at this point. I would be a fucking mess. I'd be lost. Is movie and dinners enough now? Is mentioning Netflix and having dinner like derogatory? Like, am I being too like forward? I don't know. But anyway, that's, dating was just different back then. It was just a different vibe, and it was awesome. And these kids nowadays, I wonder for my daughter as she gets older, like how it's going to be, like these apps and everything are just nuts. It's just crazy. But yeah. Cell phones were a big thing. Like, could you imagine having your cell phone now in high school, or having your cell phone then back in high school? That'd be fucking insane. Like, I wouldn't even know. Like, I think I had a cell phone towards the end of my senior year. It was like a Nokia, like those little bricks. It was amazing. But I couldn't imagine like the technology that kids have now, brought back in high school then. It's just nuts. It was just crazy. Moving forward, I think, as an only child, especially growing up in the 90s, having my grandparents was probably like one of the most biggest influences in my life. Especially them being older. I was very observant. I still am observant, but having my grandma and grandpa in my life really was a very awesome thing. My grandpa taught me a lot, and so did my grandma. And just having that different perspective in life, I think really shaped me into the person I am today. Luckily my daughter has both her grandparents on each side, and it's just an awesome thing to be able to give her. I'm glad that they're there for her in her life as an only child. But you know what? Grandparents are awesome. Rest in peace. They're gone now. But as an only child, I think they really did guide me in ways that most kids don't get to have, and it was pretty awesome. So, like I said, this podcast is my very first podcast. If I'm rambling, I'm sorry. I do apologize. But this is my first episode. I really am thankful for you guys who are listening. Thank you so much. If you enjoy this, please comment down below if you're watching from YouTube, and subscribe and like. I'm trying to get this kickstarted off with a little biography of an only child growing up in the 90s. And if you are listening to this on the audio outlet, thank you so much for tuning in. I promise you I won't be rambling as much as I am. And if you find it exciting, please subscribe to my channel, however it works. If you're hearing it from this outlet, then I must have done something right. So, I just can't, tell you how awesome the 90s were. So let's fast forward, like going into like the late 90s, early 2000s. Some of the greatest moments for me were like video games. You know, when I was a young lad, Sega was my outlet. That was my video game. You know, Sonic, Shinobi, all the different little games. You know, I had it. I was a spoiled fuck. You know, my parents got me all of it. God bless them souls. Vector Man. You know, all my cousins would come over. We'd play like it. My house was a place to be. You know, as I got older, my dad got me a PlayStation 1 and himself, you know, he played it too. Tomb Raider, Resident Evil. I can't even go into to telling you about how awesome and such a fanboy I am for Resident Evil. I love Resident Evil. As an only child, you know, I'd come home from school all recluse and shit like a weirdo, and I'd play Resident Evil, and like I loved it so much, I wanted it to come true. Like that's how obsessed I was with it, and I just love it to this day. You know, I got my wife into it, and you know we've played pretty much all of them, and she loves them as well. So you know that's a pretty awesome experience. You know, video games growing up as a kid in the '90s were very influential, if you will have it, I guess. But you know, video games were just awesome. You know, it was just a different vibe back then compared to now. Don't get me wrong, they're good now, they're awesome, but you know, it's just different times. But you know, going forward like into the early 90s or the late 90s, I'm sorry, early 2000s, you know, high school for me, you know, I wasn't popular. You know, I wasn't one of the popular fucks, you know. I mean, I was kind of like one of the outcasts, I guess, but I had a good quality and sense where maybe as an only child, because I made all my cousins laugh growing up. That was like my thing. And they can probably still say it to this day. But I was like the funny kid, you know, like the funny guy, you know, growing up, and I always had to have the last word. I remember I had one teacher. She'd always make me sit outside, you know. And thinking about it now, I was such a little dick. She'd be like, "You always have to have the last word, don't you?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do." "Okay, go sit outside." "All right, fuck it, whatever," you know. So, you know, high school was pretty awesome. Probably my freshman, sophomore year were probably like the greatest years of my life. You know, me and my girlfriend, wife now, you know, we had some pretty fun times. I played football. You know, I dominated my freshman year. That was like the best year of my life. I had a coach, you know, he ended up leaving the year after. He was just great. Awesome. He ended up leaving, and then we had some other fucking idiot coaches that I just couldn't stand, you know, and it's all politics at the end of the day. You know, they played the favorites, and, you know, anyway, I'm sure I have a couple buddies on here that can contest to that. You know, it was just, it was whatever. Like I said, I live in the past. I don't know why, but yeah. So, you know, high school was pretty interesting for an only child growing up in the now early 2000s. You know, it was just a different vibe. You know, we had the best music in the late 90s, early 2000s. You know, we had one of my most influential rock bands that got me into anything was probably Linkin Park. I mean, everyone knows Linkin Park. Linkin Park was just the band that did it for me. I fucking love Linkin Park. Papa Roach, Korn, Slipknot. I'm guilty for listening to Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. I'm not gonna lie. You know, my cousins listened to it, and I vibed with it. Why not? My uncle on my mom's side, he got me into ska like around 12 or 13. Supertones, it's like a Christian band. They're always like, you know, nostalgic for me. So that was kind of a fun thing back then, you know. So yeah, you know, the 90s were just great. As far as, you know, being an only child in the 90s, I like to say that as an only child, I was very close to my parents. I still am. And I like to see my daughter the same way. You know, she's super close to me and my wife. And, you know, she's going to be an only child. And, you know, she's super close to us, and she has her grandparents. And, you know, I think she has that sense of independence, you know, where she can play on her own and do her own thing. And I think that's a quality of being an only child, is that we don't necessarily need someone 24/7 or need someone 24/7, you know, to be entertaining us. And I think that was a good quality of being an only child. And if you can relate, that's great. And if you have brothers and sisters and you feel the same way, well then, hey, hats off to you. But, you know, I think that being an only child has its perks, you know. I'm just getting this like funny memory going back to like talking about TV shows. I remember like being up like at 2 in the morning, watching Nick at Night. I mean, I was spoiled. Like I said, my grandparents had cable, Nickelodeon, the Disney Channel, fucking Rocko's Modern Life, the Rugrats, Hey Dude, a Double Dare. I mean, we had the greatest shows ever. Now the shows that they have now they're just garbage. Just like the movies growing up. Jurassic Park, Terminator. I mean, fucking movies dominated. Predator. Now the movies now, they're not even scary. They're garbage. It's complete garbage. I'm doing it in comparison to then to now, and it's just we had the best of the best. I mean, I'm sure you guys can agree to it. I mean, movies now are just trash, especially scary movies. They're not even scary. I remember watching, and this is like an early 2000s kind of flick, Signs. You guys remember Signs? Now that was fucking creepy. When the little alien will walk by and they're like, Mita, it's behind. That should fucking scare the shit out of me. Or when they were on top of the roof and the little girl looks out and he's just standing there. Are you fucking kidding me? That gave me nightmares. It still does. Or here's probably like a classic one you guys probably don't remember. If you do, Fire in the Sky. That movie scared the shit out of me. It's like a true story. Well, true events of a man who got abducted. Like, that's a fucking scary movie. That movie to this day, excuse me, scares me to death because I love aliens and paranormal. So, yeah. Let me see what else. 90s movies. I'd probably have to say The Fifth Element is probably one of my favorite movies ever. Mila Jovovich, oh God, she was so gorgeous. She's still pretty hot, but I was never into the whole Angelina Jolie crap. Like, she just never did it for me. You know, growing up, I hear like the guys like, yeah, she has the biggest tits. She's gorgeous. Bro, she's gross. She's too much plastic surgery up here for me. Now, I will say one of the best influential movies for me going into football was probably Varsity Blues. I got one buddy of mine, we used to always quote the line, we were just kids, Mucks. We were just kids. That was probably like one of my favorite football movies ever. It's just the 90s did it the best. 90s did it the best. So you know what, guys? I hope you're enjoying this podcast. Like I said, I'm sorry if I'm rambling. This is my first podcast ever. I'm trying to keep it as short as I can to engage you guys. Like I said, I am the Bearded Muck. I will be doing many podcasts to come. You can find me on my YouTube channel, The Bearded Muck, or I will put in the description my audio podcasts. You guys can also listen to me there. I haven't learned yet how to branch that out, but I'm pretty good at doing it, so I will do that. I'm going to be coming out with another podcast pretty soon. I just got to find time to do it. I'm going to be doing it with my lovely wife. We have a secret game show that we're going to be doing that I cannot wait to do and show you guys. It's hilarious. So once we get that going, she'll be right here next to me as my co-host, and it'll be great. So yeah, guys, growing up in the 90s was just fucking awesome. Going back to talking about like the family parties, it's kind of funny because my cousins will probably laugh if they hear this, but our dads thought they were so secretive. We would all come to the parties and everyone would be like, accustomed and hanging out and shit. And they would all go to the garage. It was like the mysterious thing, like they'd all slip away one at a time, and then they would go to the garage and they fucking blaze it. They'd get high and they'd come back all fucked up like, what's up? And they thought we didn't know about it. I can smell you a fucking mile away. Like, really? Like, you guys are retarded to think that we didn't know about that. And it was like the biggest joke growing up that they didn't think we knew. We fucking knew. And it's funny thinking about it now as a 37-year-old father and husband, I don't smoke weed, but it's like thinking about like, I'll catch myself in certain things, thinking I'm being sneaky. But my daughter, almost 6 years old, she's so smart. She'll call me on it. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm turning into my father, he was a good looking man. He is a good looking man. So, he did give me that quality. I'm just kidding. But anyways, guys, this is the life of an only child in the 90s. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. Like I said, once again, if you guys can please comment, let me know what you guys think about the podcast. Tell me about how you guys, what was your favorite moment growing up in the 90s? being as an only child or not, like favorite food, TV shows, memories that you had, just let me know about it. And, we can talk about it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I am the Bearded Muck, and I hope to be showing some more podcasts pretty soon for you guys for your entertainment. And yeah, guys, thank you for listening. For my audio peeps out there, thank you so much for subscribing and liking. Please add me. And for the YouTube guys, hey, thank you. Thank you guys and gals for watching this. I hope it wasn't too boring. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I am the Bearded Muck, episode 1, The Life of an Only Child Growing Up in the 90s. All right, guys, thank you so much. Take care.